And I would also like to thank Nessa for hosting this here in the European Parliament, which is a familiar stamping ground to myself, as she says. But it's a very convenient location for us to tackle this really important issue for Ireland and Europe. I represent Chair of Green Foundation Ireland. We work to increase awareness on the necessity for sustainability in all kinds of ways. And of course, food is very important in that issue of sustainability. And we're going to hear more about precisely how that happens later. But I would like to thank as well all of the people who've given themselves to come here today to talk about this important topic. We have representatives from across the political spectrum, from the Food Safety Authority, from basically a lot of people and organisations that are interested in food and how important it is. So I'd like you to thank all of them, because they have given us freely of their skills, and nobody's getting expenses or anything like that, because we can't afford it. Green Foundation is a very small organisation. We have some funding from Green Foundation Europe, which is funded by the European Parliament, but we rely on people's goodwill. So I'd like you to acknowledge that too. And I very much do that now, and thank people for giving their time and skills. When I was growing up in the 50s, it's a long time ago now, food was something that you were glad to see in front of you. And it was limited in variety, but it was good. I think it is a lot more complicated now, and our children and grandchildren have a different view of food. It's everywhere, and they're not glad to see it in front of them. They're more suspicious of it, and sometimes with reason, sometimes without reason. We're going to talk about that today. One of the things that Green Foundation is trying to do is to bring people from all kinds of perspectives together to have a discussion and an exchange of views. I'd like that exchange to be transient, but I would like to try to get people to listen to each other and not to simply take a position from their own entrenched views, because I don't think that moves us on. We should all be interested in good food for our children and interesting food to eat for ourselves. I think Ireland had a food culture when I was growing up. As I said, it was limited. Now we seem to think of a food culture as something that happens on television or with celebrity chefs, of which we have one today. But I don't think that's really how you arrive at a food culture. I think I'm very, very convinced of this. A food culture happens in the home and on the farm and in the garden. And I'd like to know what you think about that. We're waiting for the Minister. I don't think he's arrived yet. And while we're waiting for him, as Nessa and I are used to waiting for ministers, as I'm sure many others here, I would also like to thank Stephen Nutty very, very much. And here on cue, the Minister is arriving. So please welcome Tom Hayes, Minister, for food as well as many other things.